What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. I'm Joe Nissom. As always, with me is Mr. David Fuchs. David, good to see you, as always.
Good to see you, as always.
Oh,
Good to see
oh God, man, you're making me feel
you.
good. Let's talk a little CFP.
Let's
Let's
do it.
talk. Let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics. Probably the thing that I always say to students here. I go, "Here's the one thing that I can't teach you to do." I could teach you a lot of stuff. I could teach you exam tactics, knowledge, uh, tell you what to memorize, tell you what you need to apply. Here's one thing that I can never teach you: reading the question, reading the F in question.
Yeah, and it sounds
And
obvious. It sounds obvious, but when you go through and do a mock or you go through and take an exam, you'll see why it's not. Because you're gonna fly through questions. And this is where they trip you up.
yeah, and I will tell you the number one thing that kind of complicates this very simple idea is the pressure cooker. Okay, now and here's how it goes. I'm studying for CFP, and let's say that I'm studying for CFP by myself. So every day, I get in my routine, and let's say that I'm a really good studier. So every day I go to work and I come home and I have dinner, and then I put my kids down at 7, and then I do my studying from 8 to 11 every night. I'm in bed by 11:30, and I have this great routine where I'm just studying and getting it done and doing it with family responsibility and work responsibility. I'm a machine. If you're studying on your kitchen table at 8 or 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and you got some music going on in the background, and you're sitting in your jammies or your boxers, or however you like to study. I'm a big, like, I would study in my sweats, all the time. I'd
Of
have my
course.
tea next to me. I'd do, and then all of a sudden you walk into the exam, and now you're in the pressure cooker. You don't take into account that you're gonna have exam day nerves. Right. When I took CFA level 1, I hadn't taken the exam since CFP, like a standardized. I'm like, my palms are sweating. I'm like an Eminem song. I'm like, like my palm, and I'm like, why am I so nervous? Like, I know this material really well. And I found myself right at the beginning of that test, like instantly, like wanting to be done so badly that I was rushing, and I'm like, whoa, like slow down. And I had to like get up, go to the bathroom, collect myself, wash my face, like, and almost like slap myself in the mirror to get myself into a slower mindset. And this is what tends to happen is that if you don't practice with a little bit of pressure and stress yourself out, come exam day, come mock exams, especially if you're doing them really close to the exam, you're going to start getting in a really vicious cycle of just rushing and rushing and rushing. So,
Mhm.
especially if you start, you're studying, oh, it's all good, and then I'm going to do my mock exam a week out, and then you do that first mock exam, and you start to feel the pressure, and you're rushing through, and then you get like a 62 on the exam. That second mock is even worse because now you're rushing even more because you're anxious about, oh my God, I got a 62 a week out. And now your head's all over the place.
Yeah, and I remember when I was going through prep. Again, I like to reference some things that you said that may have seemed small at the time, but turned out to be very valuable pieces of advice. You were like, listen, when you're taking practice questions and when you're taking a mock exam, similar to what you just said, you need to take the questions and you need to read the questions as if you are sitting there in Prometric on exam day. So like a lot of people take their practice exams or they take practice quizzes or whatever, and they may not be as focused or they may not be as laser sharp when reading the question. They may miss some words. They may say, fuck it, I don't need to read the first paragraph or whatever. And if you're going to do that when you're practicing, you're not going to be necessarily conditioned to do that same thing, to do it more disciplined on the actual exam day. And you said, you were like, when you're going through mock exams or when you're going through your actual exam, you need to read, excuse my language, you need to read the fucking question.
Mm.
And really what you meant by that was you need to focus and practice like how you are going to play. And
Exactly.
and that was just a very, very small but valuable piece of advice that you gave us, when we were
Yeah.
going through prep.
And again, all of us kind of go in, we're kind of being casual as we're studying. Oh, this hot, like, my husband or wife walked in and we were talking about the kids and we had this, and I'm in the middle of a mock exam. And then all of a sudden it's like, 20, 30 minutes passes, and then I got to get back in the groove. And then it was like, oh, now I'm tired. And then, you're not treating that mock exam with the respect that it deserves.
Right. And that's going to
Then,
condition you.
yeah. And now you go to exam day and you're like, the pressure's on. It's like, well, I didn't practice this. And I think we're under the impression that exam day is going to happen. And it's like that pressure forces me to focus. And for most of us, that pressure forces you to be even more distracted and fall back to the way exactly that you did it. So there's no magic sauce here. The reality of it is that the way that you did on your worst mock exam is likely how you're going to perform on exam day.
Mm-hmm.
So if your worst mock exam is generally the predictor of how you do on the exam. So if your worst mock exam is still passing, you're probably good. But if your worst mock exam, you're all over the place, your head's all over the place, what do you think the pressure of walking into a Prometric center, the other people taking the exam with headphones on, and now you're in this tiny little cubicle, you have one little piece of paper to write on. If you're not prepping yourself for that, you're putting yourself at a grave disadvantage. And there's no way around it. If you think that just some switch is going to turn on and you're now going to be 10, 20 points better, I mean, and this is like you hear guys who are like, practice. I never really try that hard in practice, but on game day, I'm going to do that. Yes, when you're a well conditioned athlete, that you're not putting it all on the floor in practice, I understand that because your level of training is here, not here. Right.
Yeah.
So even on your worst day, you're still better than, you're still training at an extremely high level. And I think a lot of us take that and hear that and go, oh, yeah, I'm just going to be better on game day. It doesn't work like that, and I think that is something that everybody thinks that the exam is going to focus them. The exam is going to cause jitters. The exam is going to cause anxiety. The exam is going to trigger that exam that you took when you were in the ninth grade that you failed and then everybody called you stupid. Like every bad experience comes up on exam day. So if you're not prepping yourself for that, then you're not going to be ready for exam day because by nature, you're going to be a little bit more careless. You're going to be a little bit more nervous and you're going to fall to the level of your worst exam. We fall to the level of our training. We rarely, everybody thinks we rise to the occasion, but really it's we rise to the level of our training. So if your training's crap, you're probably going to perform like crap. But if your training, even on your worst day, is really good, you're probably going to do great on the exam. And just as a warning, doesn't feel that great. It never feels that sure. Like you don't go in walking out going, like you're clicking the button and hitting submit and going, yeah, I definitely passed. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like a grind, nonetheless. So I'll end it on that note. Dave, do you have any last thoughts?
No, that's it.
As always, guys, we hope that this was helpful and we will chat with you very soon.